season starts here, the Vancouver Boat Show.
Welcome to the Vancouver International Boat Show virtual seminar series, sponsored by Freedom Marine International Yacht Sales, the premier choice for exploring the passion of yachting. Thank you for joining us. The seminar will begin in one moment. If you are having technical difficulties, you can reach me, the online moderator, via the chat feature at the bottom of your screen. Questions for the speaker can be added to the Q&A box also at the bottom of your screen. We will ask these questions at the end of the presentation. Now it is our pleasure to present So Many Cleaners and Treatments, How to Choose with Peter Bristow. Take it away, Peter.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. Great to see you. It's been a very interesting series of shows. We recently did the Toronto Boat Show and now doing the Vancouver Boat Show, and it's the same format. And it's a little bit of an adjustment, talking to a camera and not talking to an audience. As mentioned, my name is Peter Bristow. I am co-owner of Aquatech Incorporated. We are a specialty chemical company that specializes in cleaners and treatments for the RV and the marine industries. Been around for about 10 years now, and we're throughout Ontario, Quebec, and the Maritimes. We did do the Vancouver Boat Show last year. That's kind of what we look like. And if you can't tell, I'll zoom that in. Finally, Innovative Solutions are here as soon as we can get around the mountain. Unfortunately, our booth never made it to the show. It got stuck behind a rock slide on the train. So it arrived the day after the show ended. You may recognize this as what we eventually morphed into. Luckily, our marine distributor had an empty rack and some empty bottles that I could throw up in our booth. So you may not recognize the brand or some of the bottles you're going to see, but that's what we look like. We really did try to participate. I also did a seminar called The Truth About Holding Tank Treatments, which was very popular. I've done that one for years at the Toronto Show and also in the RV industry. Very, very popular. A lot of confusion in that. One of the reasons that I wanted to do a seminar is we spend a lot of time at shows. And the main reason is we get a lot of feedback from folks like yourself. With a slogan like "Only the Best," it was never meant to be cocky. Really, we design our stuff to outperform everything else in the market, or we don't launch it. Where we can go environmentally friendly and have it outperform everything in the category, we'll go that route. But we wanted to, scientifically, we know that we've got advanced stuff, but we want to get the feedback from you good folks, because quite frankly, you're the ones who typically, and I'm the same way, you don't read the directions. And you kind of do your own thing, and we're all kind of backyard chemists. So we mix this and we mix that, and it's the right stuff, it's the wrong stuff. You use special brushes, and there's just so much confusion out there that we like to do the shows and give that information back and clarify some stuff. And we find there's common questions that come up on a regular basis. So we found that the seminar was the best way to convey some of that information, which is one of the reasons I was doing The Truth About Holding Tank Treatments, because that was such a confusing category on what works, what doesn't work, why doesn't it work. The package says this, but it's not doing that. It can be very confusing. And this is the other one that we get a lot. People don't necessarily ask why, how do we choose? We listen to what they're saying. I've got, and generally it's, I've got this problem. What can I use? And what we run into is, and we love when people do that, but we know a lot of people don't come up and ask us because, quite frankly, we look like a bunch of sales guys that are going to get all pitchy and say you got to buy our stuff. And that's not, for us. It's not really what we're about. Starting last year at the Montreal RV Show and the Montreal Boat Show, and all shows from then. We stopped selling our products at the show. And if you actually go to our virtual booth, here at the Vancouver show, you'll see that you can't buy any of our products. We encourage you to go to your local chandlery. The reason is we don't want to come across pitchy. We want to convey some of the information and make you more comfortable with how to use products in general, so that you have a better understanding of how to do it. And the only way we can really accomplish that is to remove the sales pitchy side of it, and make it more approachable to us, so that we can answer your questions genuinely. In this presentation, you're going to be seeing various brands, but we're not going to talk about those brands specifically. Went the wrong direction. In particular, you're going to see some of the brands pop up here on the screen. You're going to recognize some, you may not recognize others. Some of these brands are for the automotive industry, and there's a reason for that. Generally, people will, they support the local marina, but they also buy from the big box. There are a handful of companies that are targeting the cars that think that they can also bring it over onto the boat side as well. And the problem is the surfaces are very, very different. The surface of a car is clear coat, which makes it pretty bulletproof to dirt. It's really resistant, so you can use really mild cleaners and treatments to get that wow factor. Whereas a boat, and even on the RV side as well, it's a more porous surface. Boats have gel coat, and I understand that people wax, and it's not quite as it's not quite the protection you think it is when it comes to the wax. But we won't get into all that right now. Because of the porousness, you have to sort of up the horsepower to handle the cleaning it the way your expectations are demanding. So I've thrown a few car brands on here because I know people out there are using some of the car brands. The problem is you've seen all kinds of stuff on the screen here now, and how do you choose? And even then, when you've got a general idea of what you want to use, where do you get it? Especially now, the pandemic has thrown how we do our purchasing a little bit. Some of the common areas are the hardware stores, Canadian Tire, Amazon, of course, and Walmart. And of course, your favorite local marina or chandlery, because they're trying to be open as well. So there's a whole mess on the screen right now. So what I want to do is scale that down, and go through sort of what I believe everyone is thinking on what they're looking for. And then I want to sort of change that thought into something a little more focused, so that you have a little more comfort, a little more education, a little more information on what it is on how you're going to find what it is you're really looking for. So some of the possible influences that you're going to be up against in choosing is probably the most obvious is price. We all shop the sales. We all walk in and look for the cheapest one, because that's, what other benchmark is there? There's lots of pretty packages, which is the next one. There's lots of bling, there's lots of flash. This one has lots of purple in the label. Does that mean it's better? I like this trigger better. Is it, does it go faster? Who knows what really triggers us? But price, certainly. Packaging. The other one is reputation. What has my neighbor used? What have I read online? What have what does the marina use? It's that word of mouth has a lot of bearing on how we make those decisions. Keep in mind, though, and this is sort of a negative side to social media, and I'm certainly not putting down social media, so don't take it that way. But social media, like chatting with your neighbor or seeing what your father or what your son or is using. The problem with that is you're checking with somebody else who doesn't necessarily have the chemistry background to have an understanding of what it should be doing or what it shouldn't be doing. It's just, success in whatever set of circumstances worked for them, which is another reason why we like to do the shows and why we like to do these type of seminars, is because we have that chemistry background. We understand how the molecules are supposed to be behaving, and how it may be different than what's on the package. But based on that, reputation is obviously a strong one, because if it didn't work for anybody, then generally you're not going to pick it up again. And the last one is convenience. Sometimes you're on the way to the boat, you're on the way to the cottage, you're not where you normally are, and you just got to pick it up. So you run into Walmart, you run into Canadian Tire, whatever the case is, because it's just convenient. What have you got? And or even your marina. I haven't used any of this stuff before. Here's the problem I got. What do you recommend? It's just convenient. So generally, we think this is what people are looking for in when they're making that buying decision, and how they're choosing a product that they need to do whatever it is. Here is understanding now that we sort of have an idea of what we think that the method that we think that you're using, we need to understand what it is that we're dealing with. What are the surfaces? What are you cleaning? Every surface is going to behave differently. I mentioned cars have the clear coat, which is fairly bulletproof. It's heavy UV protection. It's a lot of stuff. So mild cleaners will always work well on a car. But fiberglass is very porous. Metal, depending on the metal, can be very porous as well. Painted and unpainted. We get a lot of questions saying, well, I've got an aluminum boat, that I need to, or a pontoon boat that I need to clean. Is it bare aluminum or is it painted aluminum? Because painted aluminum is not aluminum, it's paint. So you're really wanting to clean the paint. So you need to qualify that kind of thing. Fabrics can also be tricky as well. Is it synthetic or is it natural? Synthetic is you're dealing in the plastics. Natural, you're dealing with cotton that can actually absorb the stain into the fiber, where that doesn't happen with synthetics. So you need to understand the surface that you need to clean or treat. Next thing is, what is the dirt that you're cleaning? Is it pollution? Is it algae? Is it mold? Each one of them behave very differently on how it's attaching to the surface or doesn't attach. Does it stain? Does it actually break down the surface? Those are all factors. And also, where is it? Are we dealing above the water line? Are we dealing below the water line? Two very different ways of handling stuff. Everything above the water line is subjected to UV rays, as cars are, as we are, and they all need protecting in some form. Waxes, as an example, for a car is very different from a boat. If a car is only sitting in the sun, so you get that direct sun, you get the UV rays breaking down the wax. When you've got a boat on the water, you've got the reflection of a million mirrors breaking that down. And UV rays obviously reflect. So the poor boats get pounded with UV rays. So a more hardy wax is more in line with what you should be looking at, based on the fact that it's out subjected to all those UV rays. Below the water line, it's I like to say it's sitting in the soup. You've got 100% contact time. That is whatever the soup is. Lakes, the ocean, you've got different pH, you've got different tinctures, you've got different pollutions, you've got, whatever's in the water, it's always against that surface. So cleaning it is, what you use above the water line is going to be very different than what you use below the water line. And also, you've got different conditions on land versus water. And I've already mentioned the example of the UV rays, that you get direct UV rays on something on land, but you get the reflection of all those UV rays from the water. And I've written down there the rinse water, considering where that's going. If it's in the water and you're rinsing into the water, what's that going to do to the ecosystem? If it's on land, depending on how you're dealing with it, is it above gravel? Is it above some sort of surface that's going to be filtering out whatever contaminants there are? And probably the most important one is, what are your expectations? Based on everything you've learned about what you're dealing with, what are you expecting? Probably the best example that I run into is aluminum. Trying to clean bare aluminum. It's fiberglass and cars and that sort of thing. When you wash them, they get shiny. When you wash aluminum with traditional cleaners, they tend to be they can be generally acid based. There's non-etching and there's etching, but generally when you clean aluminum, it goes white. So you're not getting that showroom shine, although that's what people are expecting. So managing those expectations based on what the dirt is, what the surface is, that's important as well, because if you want certain expectations, you need to understand what to use in order to achieve that. So the components for effective cleaning and treating. Generally, you need to understand the method based on what it is that you need to clean, what the surface is, and everything on the previous slide. What method are you going to work? Are you going to use? Is it by hand? Is it by machine? Do you need tools? Do you need a buffer? Do you need a power sprayer? Whatever the case is. And of course, based on all that, you decide what cleaner or what treatment you have decided is going to be most effective for what it is that you're expecting. So what I want to talk about the hierarchy of preferences. We're starting to narrow down rather than just a broad, let's buy it based on price. Let's narrow some stuff down and work on some expectations here. When you're wanting to clean something, you're expecting or treat it, you're expecting a certain level of performance. And obviously, is it working? Based on the homework that you've done, is the performance working? Is it the right product? How well is it working? Is there a lot of elbow grease required? Is the product doing the work for you? And how long is it taking? Again, that's a good indicator of is it the right horsepower? If it's not enough, you wind up having to put in more elbow grease. If it's too much, you run into collateral damage. Sometimes you wind up getting a product that's just too much for the surface. The surface is either it's just too much for the surface, or it's too much horsepower. It's the surface is more damaged than you think, so it's going to show more effects from the cleaning. Could be a lot of stuff, but obviously product performance, the stuff's got to work. Whatever it is you're cleaning, whatever you're treating, you want it to work. The second thing is the health and safety. And a lot of people don't necessarily think about that component. We have a lot of trust in the products that we buy, that we're okay. And there's a lot of reasons for that. We want to make sure all our digits are still there when we're done, and that we can still breathe just fine. These are important components. Part of that indicator of how safe it is, because how do you really know? Is in Canada, we have the hazard warnings and symbols. Just as a quick reminder, there's stuff that's toxic, there's stuff that's corrosive, flammable, and explosive. You'll find these usually right on the front of containers. It's not on this one, but you'll find it in this area by law. We'll talk about that a little more. The other thing with this is the secondary cautionary information. That you'll find on the side or on the back down here. It's called the health and safety box. Somewhere in there, on the labels, there has to be an actual box that has the health and safety information. Gives you an indicator of whatever the nasty chemical is in the product, but also instructions if you inhale it, if you drink it, if it gets into your eyes. It's quick first aid information that you should probably know about. Again, we take a lot of that for granted, but it is important. You want to have stuff that's going to be performing the way you want it, but it's important that it's not going to hurt us. The third one is the environmental impact, which again is important. We want to do our due diligence. We want to be responsible. We want it to work. We want us to be safe, but then we want the environment to be okay with it as well. what you can run into, and we all want to do the right thing as far as, is this product going to hurt the environment? But how do we know? What measuring stick is there? Give me an indicator of whether I'm doing a good thing or a bad thing by using this product. So years ago, EcoLogo showed up on the scene. It was an independent group at one time. It's now owned by the Canadian government. But basically, it's a list of rules and regulations for that a product has to adhere to and abide by in order to carry that logo. It's kind of a pay to play. You have to have your plant audited. You have to pay X amount per year per product. Plus, you have to pay a percentage of sales to be part of it. But it gives you an indicator of whether it's going to be harmful to a certain extent or friendly to whatever the surface is, or to the environment. EcoLogo they have their set of rules, but they also rely on an independent agent out of the US, Underwriter Labs. It's been around for well over 100 years. They independently audit what EcoLogo is doing. They have their own set of rules as to whether it's environmentally friendly or not. In recent years, they've combined the two together for this purpose, and you'll see this symbol. It isn't just in marine industry or RV. You'll see this stuff on fiberglass pink insulation. It's in a whole bunch of different areas. But there, you may see these symbols on products and packages and that sort of thing. There's also California Environmental Protection Agency, which is a really stringent group. You see a lot of we run into it more often with aspiration type products, aerosols, stuff in aerosol cans. Fairly tough group, high standards on this. The one that I am most impressed with is actually, it used to be called Design for the Environment. It's now called Safer Choice. This group is out of the States. They have really strict rules. They actually go so far as to list the nasty chemicals that if your formulas contain any one of these chemicals on the list, you will not pass our standards. They look at not just what's in the bottle. They look at where's the bottle coming from, where the chemical's coming from, how is the bottle being used. When it gets out into the environment, after you've used the product and it's been rinsed and into the environment, what then happens? Chemistry can be fairly complicated. What's in a bottle may have been deemed as environmentally friendly, but then when it gets out into the environment and is I call it being put under load, some of those chemicals that are environmentally friendly in the bottle will switch around and become very unfriendly. And it's groups like this that recognize that and look at that component as well when they're deciding what can actually carry the Safer Choice label. And here in Canada, as I mentioned, it was earlier on the bottles. There's that area where the symbol's corrosive and that kind of thing would be how well you can tell. There's also caution irritant on there. The health and safety box on the back, that's all regulated by Consumer Chemicals and Containers Regulations. Short form is CCCR 2001 standards. That must be adhered to for all retail products in Canada. Doesn't matter if it's made in Canada or made somewhere else. If it's for sale in Canada, you have to adhere to that. Not everybody does, although the government is trying, but the rules say that you have to adhere to those regulations. And of course, for them to determine whether it's an irritant or corrosive, they have their own set of regulations. We recognize that these are different versions of I call them measuring sticks on what's environmentally friendly. None of them are wrong. None of them are totally right either. There's good stuff and bad stuff, and I can do a whole separate seminar on what's really environmentally friendly and how do you measure it and where in the process do you measure it. But what we've done actually is just created our own symbol that combines all of these together. On top of the fact that my business partner is a professional chemical engineer, and we have a brilliant chartered chemist on staff as well, and both are personally liable for the statements that we put on our bottles on what's environmentally friendly and what's not. So we've chosen to go with our own symbol and sort of combine the best of all of them to provide fairly high standards on what's environmentally friendly. Ultimately, to bring it back to the hierarchy, we want to do the right thing. We want products got to work. It's got to be safe for us, and obviously we want to be conscious of what's happening when we rinse it out into the lake, the ocean, the dirt, what have you. The last level of the hierarchy is, after everything that I've just said, it's got to work. It's got to be safe for us. We want to protect the environment. We also want to have good value. If the first three things are going to price it out of the market, then it's really not going to be effective. Very few people are going to spend the money to achieve that. So you want good value in what it is that you're buying. So there's sort of a recap of what I was just talking about on what we feel that people are looking for. It's not a bad list. It's not a bad checklist to help you decide what cleaners and treatments you're looking for. I do want to point something out when it comes to the major retailers, because my past life, I work for a food broker, so I've called on the majors. I've done the Walmarts and the Loblaw companies and the Shoppers Drug Marts and and the list goes on and on and on. So they've got a very different view on how they offer products, and the very first thing that they look at is price. Hence, when you pick up the ad, the Canadian Tire ad, the Shoppers Drug Mart, whatever grocery store you go to, they've got the flyers, and here's all the stuff on sale, enticing you on price. There's no indicator of whether it's good, bad, or not. They're just trying to get you in on price. The second thing they want to throw at you is the environmental impact. Subtly, they assume that generally people are conscious of this kind of thing, but they don't, and they rely on the actual manufacturer to do the right thing. So they're not so concerned about that. Obviously, legally, as I mentioned, CCCR 2001 standards say that all packaging must be this way. So they're they're less concerned about the health and safety, because again, they assume that the manufacturers have done the right thing and everything will pass all the standards so that they can sell it on the shelf. And of course, that leaves the performance kind of as the last thing that they're concerned about. They've got you on price. I don't know how many times I've had people come up to me at a show and say, I'm using X product, and it works. It works okay. It takes a lot of scrubbing, but I get it on sale at whatever retailer. And when you do the math, if you upped the horsepower to something that was designed for that surface, you would use less of it because it's actually doing the work. Rather than buying 3 or 4 bottles through the season of product X, why not just buy one bottle of product Y, because it's designed for that kind of surface. So something to consider where you're shopping as to whether the product is actually designed to do what you want it to do. And that actually has been our guiding principle since the beginning, since we started 10 years ago, because we're consumers too. We're those backyard chemists as well. We purposely sometimes don't read directions, and it drives our chartered chemist nuts, because we'll get him working on some products, and he's very precise. He'll wind up having, here's the instructions on how to use it, and I'll put it aside and I'll say, this is how I think it should be used, and he gets all upset. But that's, I'm a consumer too. I understand not reading directions, but I would rather take that angle so that the product is going to be user friendly, and then we obviously build it to what you're seeing on the screen. Look at product performance. We feel is the most important thing, and then obviously you have to be protected as well. We want to be very conscious of what we're doing to and with the environment. but ultimately it's got to be at a good price. And that's it. This is who I am. These are my coordinates. If you have any questions, you can see our product line at the virtual booth. You can ask questions through the virtual booth as well. Send me an email if you want, or I can answer questions right now if you like.
Yeah, if anyone has any questions at home, be sure to drop them in the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen here. I'll start us off with the first question we've got. Looking online, why don't you have a website?
Good question. Somebody's already doing their homework. That was actually a marketing strategy that we came up with not long after we started. We started the company back when the banks hit the wall in 08, 09. And keep in mind, we're a cleaner and treatment company offering products to cleaners and treatments in an already saturated market that caters to toys that require a lot of disposable income, where disposable income was starting to slide because banks were hitting the wall. There were companies shutting down. So it wasn't necessarily the right time to start, but we found what we wanted to do is, because we were going with only the best, we wanted to emphasize word of mouth. We wanted people to try it and talk about it around the campfire and talk about it on the dock. And, I hadn't really heard of this company, but, I want to, but I tried it and wow, the stuff works. And we found, that has a lot of weight. That's worked really well for our growth. Because we offer innovative solutions, innovative products that no one else has, we recognized that our competitors at the time were much larger than us, and we didn't want them to knock us off. So we purposely didn't put up a website to encourage that talking on the dock, but also to confuse our competitors. And that's actually worked really well. It's allowed us to have explosive growth on the eastern side of Canada. To the point now that we're ready to expand right across Canada. And we are, by the way, in the process of putting our website together, because we're at that point that we've got a lot of great stories to tell. We've got a lot of cool products that we want to be showing off. And we've got that momentum. In some cases, we're much bigger than the competitors that intimidated us, half a dozen years ago. But good question. Thank you.
All right, next up. Using Vim products on synthetic cushions, agreed or no?
You could use. It would certainly, it would have an effect. Vim is designed for kitchens and bathrooms. The nice thing about Vim is it's more creamy, so you're backing off on the horsepower as far as scratching, but you've still got stuff that's designed for stainless steel, for ceramics, for enamel. It might be a little much for that kind of surface. I would recommend not. There's better products out there to achieve what it is that you're wanting to do with it. Yes, it'll work, but I wouldn't recommend it.
All right. Which of your products can be used to clean exhaust staining on painted fiberglass?
We have a few of them. Easy Clean Marine is it's basically everything above the scum line, heavy in the carbon removers. So black streaks, soot, grease, pollution, they're all part of the same carbon family. So it's heavy in that kind of thing. So that'll take the exhaust stains right off. Great for bird droppings, great for cleaning everything. The seats, the vinyl windows, Strataglass, all that kind of stuff. It is environmentally friendly. It will not remove waxes. So if you've taken the time to do wax on, wax off, it's not going to strip that off. The concentrated version of Easy Clean Marine, which may be better value, is our deck and boat wash. So that's designed, you glug a couple ounces into a bucket of warm water and swab the deck. Again, it's got more bite. It's not going to hurt the surface. It's not going to strip the wax. and it is environmentally friendly, guilt-free. Rinse it into the lake or the river, whatever the case is.
Can you elaborate on fiberglass care, specifically anti-skid care?
The cleaning, as I mentioned, Easy Clean Marine, deck and boat wash, that kind of thing. I do understand the issue with the non-skid. You historically, people want to wax fiberglass because you want to protect it against UV ray damage, the oxidization. You get that chalkiness that's happening. You can't go and wax a non-skid surface because that becomes a slip hazard. What we've done actually is in 2020, we launched a product called Impervium with Easy Clean. Impervium, it's kind of a wash and wax, but it's not wax. Wax is old technology. It's organic. Wax is organic, so the UV rays break it down. It's also not environmentally friendly. And the problem with wax is you have to put on a fairly thick coating, like wax itself is fairly thick. You also, in that buffing process, you're trying to force it to attach to the surface, but wax doesn't actually attach. It sort of floats on the surface. And even the best of waxes are going to decompose or biodegrade in 2 to 4 weeks. So we came up with Impervium, which is actually it's sort of a polymer-based product that is actually environmentally friendly, and it's a wash and wax. You go out a couple ounces into a bucket of water, you wash the surface as you normally would. It actually attaches to the surface, and it takes a long time to break down, like well over a month before you need to reapply. It's a monolayer, so it's not very thick because it doesn't have to be. But you'll actually get the shine. It's got optical brighteners, so it'll enhance the color of the surface that you've washed. But it obviously has heavy UV protection, but there's no skidding. There's no slipping on it. It's not slippery. And as I mentioned, environmentally friendly. You can just rinse it right back into the lake. It's not going to harm. So that would be my recommendation on a non-skid. There's finally something to protect against the UV damage that's not going to become a slip hazard. And you get the shine out of it.
Perfect. Next up, what cleaners can be used for clear vinyl?
I assume the clear vinyl means the vinyl windows. Again, I mentioned Easy Clean, deck and boat wash. We have a treatment called Polyclear. It's a mild cleaner. It's mostly a treatment it's really just mist it on, move it around, and then buff it after it takes like 10 seconds to dry. And then you buff it. Leaves a bit of a shine on the window, leaves it soft and supple. Will resist the salt water, resists regular water. It also got heavy anti-static in it, so it will continue to sort of resist dust and that kind of thing. And the application lasts about 3.5 weeks between applications, and obviously has a heavy UV protection on it as well. But that's, there's a hint on the cleaning and on the treatment. The one thing to stay away from is Windex. I won't, throughout this whole presentation, I haven't mentioned any brands by name intentionally. There's nothing wrong with Windex for its intended, for the intended surface, but Windex has ammonia, and ammonia is an enemy to those vinyl windows, and it's not something you want to be using.
Okay, I have increased the use of bleach and water 1 to 10 due to the pandemic on handles, woods, and steel. Are there any contradictions?
No, that's to protect yourself. Bleach is a great method of doing that kind of thing. It probably doesn't need to be that strong. I would, because bleach wants to bleach, be careful of color surfaces and of fabrics. You may want to rinse it afterward. Bleach is an instant kill, and things like coronavirus it's a very soft-walled virus, so it doesn't take a lot to kill it when it comes in contact with something like bleach. So you may want to rinse that surface because I mentioned in the presentation about collateral damage. Sometimes there's too much horsepower, and that can cause collateral damage. And in that case, just be sensitive of what it is that you're putting it on.
All right. Is there anything to prevent or clean algae off fiberglass and canvas?
Yes. Again, I would use either Easy Clean Marine or Deck and Boat Wash. Algae is, and this is, the time I've spent in BC, it's you get more extremes, being on the ocean in such wet environments. So algae and mold is a lot more predominant. The Easy Clean Marine and Deck and Boat Wash are certainly strong enough to be able to clean that off. In extreme examples, and when I say extreme, when surfaces are fairly new, they've got the natural protection built into them. So products, a lot of products are going to work well on something like that. As those products get older, the UV rays break them down, the surface becomes more porous, it's going to absorb stuff like mold and algae a little more. Depending on how that has degraded, you may want to look at something like our Mega Clean, which is by far the most powerful cleaner in the marine industry. Juicy Stuff, my business partner loves calling it the sledgehammer. It's to be respected. It doesn't come with a trigger on it. Although you can stick a trigger on, put your own trigger onto it. Something to consider with a product that powerful is that you want to babysit it, and it comes down to contact time. So where you can spray Easy Clean on or Deck and Boat Wash and not worry about what you're doing to the surface because it's not going to hurt the surface, but it is going to attack the dirt. Mega Clean can start attacking the surface a little quicker. So it's something like that. Spray it on, do the scrubbing, pretty much immediately, and then get to the rinsing. A lot of people don't put a lot of stock into rinsing, but that is probably the most important part of the cleaning because you want to stop the process of attacking the surface, and you want to remove that cleaner as well. I know there's companies out there that have products that claim to be a waterless cleaner, and there really isn't any such thing. It's just if you really do want to remove those cleaners from the surface when you're done. So that's my recommendation on the boat tops and the fiberglass.
Perfect. Can you specify what stores sell Aquatuck products? I've been searching around the web and haven't seen any on my favorite stores, i.e. West Marine, Canadian Tire, etc.
Good question. We, as a policy, we don't sell to the majors. The reason we don't is that we're a specialty chemical company that specializes in supporting specialty industries, specifically, marine and RV. The RV dealers, the marinas are, their purpose is to support the boats. So we cater to them and support them. There are certain brands out there that have started in marine and have then offered their products at one of the majors. The majors, as I mentioned earlier, the majors consider price first. So they want to have the lower price. They still want to build in the same margin for them, but that means they want to lower the price and lower and keep the same margin, so they wind up squishing the cost of goods, which means that it's not going to work as well. And that's not what we're about. And what we found with those other brands is that the marinas have looked at them going, it's $5 cheaper at big box X. I'm not going to carry it on my shelf because I won't have the customers coming back to me anymore. And in order for you to be at the big box, you probably have modified your formula to meet the pricing specifications of them. So, you're on your own. So we don't want to go to a West Marine. We don't sell into the States right now. And West Marine, as far as I know, completely backed out of Canada. They certainly did on the eastern side of Canada. And Canadian Tire obviously is a big box store. So we consciously have chosen to not sell to the majors, only to marinas and RV dealers.
Okay, I've got a follow up. Are there local Vancouver retailers for your product?
It's a good question. We do have a marine distributor, Western Marine. They have their own store actually in downtown Vancouver. Um, they they handle us on the west side of Canada. So offhand, I'm in Ontario. I don't know of any specific store. They are calling on all the marinas. So offhand, I can't name anybody. But any marina that you would consider your favorite one or your local one, they right now have access to Aquatech products. Western Marine, from what I can tell, is the biggest distributor in the area. They're certainly the most well known. So every marina has heard of that distributor. So they have access to our complete line. It may not be the answer you're looking for, but the products are there if you want them.
Perfect. What are your thoughts on using a pressure washer to start or finish?
I would assume that would mean cleaning. You can water itself is a great cleaner, right? You soak your dishes in it, and that will get some of the dirt off itself. Pressurized water is going to have a lot of cleaning capability too. Just be conscious of the surface that you're spraying it on. There are, surfaces like a car. Again, it's a very durable surface. It can handle that high pressure hit. Stuff like fiberglass is more porous. The high pressure water can dig into the pores of the fiberglass fairly well. But if that pressure is a little too high, it's going to be causing collateral damage. If the pressure washer has the ability to have various settings, so that it's not as strong, or do it from a greater distance so you're not having as much pressure on it. Certainly in the rinsing, that's not going to, that will be of a benefit. It'll get it done a little bit quicker. Just be conscious of how much pressure is being put onto that surface, whatever the surface is.
All right. And I think this is the last one here. If people want to see a list of your products, is there anywhere they can look to see a list out in writing?
The best place right now is actually go to our virtual booth at the Vancouver Boat Show. It's got our complete line. I've identified what we launched in 2020. I've also identified what we're launching this year for 2021. Some really unique items there. It's got a brief description of what the product does, and it identifies what's environmentally friendly, what's not. Other than that, there's really, until the website gets up and has a little more detail, that's probably the most comprehensive list out there right now.
All right, perfect. I think that is all we've got at the moment. Is there anything else you want to add before the end of this presentation, Peter?
No, other than I hope you out there have had a few questions answered. Choosing a cleaner can be really tough. I know I've stood in front of those sections at the marina and the sections at the big box store, and I go, and I'm in the business. Even reading some of the labels and some of the stories that they tell on the labels, I go, no, that's not how that works. I've been there. I understand. But really asking questions. Hopefully you've learned something from this presentation. Just asking questions from your marina who are going to be a little more knowledgeable. If you can grab some of the gang that actually do the cleaning, because they're mad scientists. They've tried everything. They've mixed all the wrong stuff. They've tried everything. You can learn a lot from them as well. Or feel free to reach out on the 800 number. That 800 number you see on the screen actually rings directly to my business partner, who's a professional chemical engineer. And he loves chatting about molecules, and he speaks English just fine. He can talk the technical level till the cows come home, but he can say it in English very well. But he loves answering questions. So I encourage people to reach out and take the time to be a little more educated before something may go wrong on the surface.
Excellent. So if people want to get a hold of you anymore, they can jot down that information on the screen or take a quick screenshot on their computer at home. And I want to thank you, Peter, for your time here today. That was a great presentation. And I want to thank you all at home as well for joining us. We're interested in your feedback either on this seminar or any ideas on topics you might want to see us cover in the future. So simply click on the Evaluate tab located just above the seminar description to please complete the form. After the show, all attendees will also receive a post-show survey, so be sure to fill that out. You can also check out all of the features here at VIBS Virtual. If you have any questions, be sure to swing by the info booth for answers. And I hope you all enjoy the rest of your day here at the Boat Show. Once again, Peter, thank you for your time, and thank you all. Enjoy the day.